Hi everyone, welcome back to Diaries of a Funeral Director. Well, this episode we're gonna go outdoor. I want to bring you to one of my favorite spots in Gardens by the Bay. Come on. Why is curry chicken and fried bee hoon so popular in the funeral? I have no idea. So the most popular, every time when we talk to people about funeral wakes, they always say, oh yes, the curry kueh and the tar bee hoon. I really don't know why it's so popular, but it's one of the most commonly known dishes that people consume at a funeral wake. But again, things are changing. We do have people who are more atas where they want different kind of food. Maybe that's not the right word, but people are more, concerned about the type of food, and it's no longer just curry kueh and fried bee hoon. It's really a wide range of variety of dishes. We even have one family who wanted like a store, so we did that for them, where it's individual store that sells, that actually offers different delicacy of Singapore, like satay, we have lontong, we have laksa, mee siam, so we actually have a mochi station at a funeral wake as well. And I remember how the family was so pleased because it was sort of an opening piece for them. So everybody was sort of puzzled, why is there mochi at a funeral wake? And the family members were able to share that was mom's favorite food. So you don't always have to go for curry kueh and fried bee hoon, okay? So some things that people often ask about embalming is that, no, the embalmers do not remove the organs. Okay, I repeat, we as embalmers do not remove the organs from the body. Usually what happens is, if the cause of death is not known, then the pathologist will need to do a further investigation on the cause of death. Usually what happens is the body would then be brought back to HSA, and we usually call it as Block 9 at SGH. And this is where the pathologist will determine whether the body has to go through a post-mortem, which is an autopsy. So when they decided that this body needs to undergo an autopsy, they have to do an incision where they will sever the arteries. And what happened is they would then be the one who sort of temporarily remove the organs, but they always place the organs back into the body. So by the time we receive the departed, we just need to unstitch and then remove the organs just so that we can preserve them separately. But bearing in mind, the embalmers always put back the organs before we suture back, which is to stitch back. What we usually do is we need to drain the blood, because the blood is the items that will cause the body to decompose really quickly. So embalming is actually the delay of decomposition in our body. And so that's the reason why we need to remove the blood. Now, one of the things that a lot of people do not know is that in Singapore, we are probably the only country in the world to actually collect the blood from the departed and put it into a bucket. And this bucket would then be collected by Sembcorp or the waste company, where then it will be incinerated. And the reason why we're doing this is because we have our NEWater. Yes, when NEWater came out, we have to stop this practice of draining the departed blood into the sewage. And if you're very young, of course, you wouldn't know this practice where embalming was actually done at the void deck. Yes, even at the house. So you have the embalmer coming to the house or the void deck, and they are actually doing the embalming. So how do you become a funeral director? The good thing is that right now in Singapore, there is still no regulation in terms of being a funeral director. However, if you look into other countries like United States, they actually have 3 years of education in a mortuary science school where you get a degree in mortuary science, and then you need to work for a funeral home for a year being an intern before you sit for their licensing exam. So there is still no licensing in Singapore right now. We do need embalmers to be registered with NEA, but other than that, we don't really have any regulation to be a funeral director. But in my opinion, to be a good funeral director, you need to have a very high sense of empathy, because you are dealing with family, you are dealing with the beloved. So when I was doing my funeral directing school in Canada, and I was doing a distance learning in my certification of funeral directing. It was a 2 years program, and I remember learning a lot more than I thought. I didn't think that funeral directing has so many different modules, and I was learning about conflict management, I was learning about funeral directing, about managing media, about managing the publicity, even things like grief counseling. So there's a lot of facets into funeral directing. So not everybody is cut out to be a funeral director. I have heard a lot of people asking me that how do you determine or how do you think or judge a funeral director being good? There is a lot of funeral directors who enter into this industry thinking that it's such an easy job, but I never think it's an easy job because you are dealing with people's emotions. And I always say funeral is one event that you can never rewind. So we want to give it our all. We want to do it right for the family because you want to make it memorable and meaningful. You don't want to be caught in a situation where there's a sudden death in your family and then you're scrambling to decide on which funeral director. And frankly, at that point in time, we can't make the best decision. So I often say we actually have the whole lifetime to decide our funeral. The irony, right? But nobody really spent time to look into it. So yes, there are a lot of people who often ask me, so what happened and why is it that the eyes of the departed will be opened or the mouth will be open? A lot of people think that, oh, his eyes is open, so he's not resting in peace. No, please don't let that make you feel guilty. Not at all. It's just a natural reaction of our body because when we stop breathing, the circulation has sort of slowed down. It hasn't stopped immediately, but it just slows down. And slowly the muscles will relax. I remember I received a departed from a nursing home. And the uncle had a ribbon tied over his head. It was a strip of cloth. And, they bind his face. They wanted to close his mouth. But that is the biggest nightmare for embalmers. And I'll share with you why. Now, I mentioned earlier that when a departed passes away, the circulation sort of slows down and eventually it will stop. So because there's no circulation, actually what happened was it created a dent, like a mark, right into the face. So don't worry about that. Don't try to force it. Don't try to damage, the jaw. So just leave it to the professional. We will take care and to make sure that we close the mouth and close the eyes and give a very peaceful repose to your loved ones. And rigor mortis, yes, people think that rigor mortis sets in right immediately when a person passes away. In fact, no, it takes a period of time. So it will take a couple of hours before that is set in. So one of the things is when rigor mortis set in, you could put a chair on the head and then the chair on the foot, and you can suspend the person where there's nothing at the back and they will stay solid. Like that. When we transfer a departed and he's in the rigor mortis state, no, we don't need to break the bones, okay? We do something like we do like a massaging. So let's say, for instance, this is very stiff. So we slowly massage the joints, loosen up. We do a lot of massaging just so that, we can loosen this joint and then get it to where we want it to be.